Suicide, a big word that is rarely spoken about. People shy away from this topic because of the stigma attached to it. So why do people commit suicide? Can we possibly understand their reasons? We know many factors can cause suicide, but is there one factor that stands above it all? I plan to find out. The Isle of Wight is a small island located on the south coast of England. On the surface, it may seem like just another popular spot for the average holidaymaker. However, there is a dark side to the island. It has one of the highest rates of suicide in England, which is surprising due to its small population. With both my parents having experience around suicide, from the lifeboat to the paramedic scene, I want to investigate and find out all about this topic. I spoke to a number of people including Sean Harrison, crew manager at Sandown Fire Station, Margaret Fraser, a personal tutor at the Isle of Wight College, and Jodie Neal, who has had a personal experience with suicide. Why do you think people commit suicide?
I don't know. It's a really good question. I think people have just come to the stage in their life where they don't feel that it is any value to carry on and they want to no longer be in it. But again, it's a support out there that we need to be looking at to make sure we can help people in that situation.
To end the suffering and the pain. Relieve, if they think they can stop being a burden on their friends and families, I think they do it. Coward's way out, if you want to call it that. But then sometimes I think the mental strength you have to be able to do it it's weird. I mean, I've been there once, but I don't think it was a strong thing I was doing. Maybe I was weak because I chickened out. I don't know. It's a hard one.
I think people feel they have too much pain and they can't cope with it. I think when one's feeling very, very down, very, very negative, thoughts spiral down, there's a kind of process where one can't see any happiness, any joy in life. And I think we have to remember that people's thought processes change, so they do become negative and they see perhaps suicide as their only option.
Do you think mental health could be a big contributor towards suicide?
Yes, I think suicide is always undertaken when someone's mind is disturbed in some way, either by an event, like a supreme loss through a bereavement, or anxiety, depression, some kind of drug use will often make people feel suicidal. And then I think what happens, some people will self-medicate with alcohol, with drugs, which can make them feel more depressed and more down.
I don't think we understand the term mental health, if I'm perfectly honest with you. It seems to have this thing that people think of mental health for people that are in hospitals and in areas like that. Mental health is a very, very broad word for a subject. I think we just need to understand exactly what's going on in people's minds to make them think that there's no way out.
I learned that mental health could possibly be one of the main contributors towards suicide. Mental health can affect us all in one way or another. It can influence the way we behave and the way in which we cope with things in tough times. Mental health problems can vary massively, from everyday worries to serious long-term conditions. The most common conditions are generally depression and anxiety, with 1 in 10 people on average being affected by either one. More than 90% of suicides and suicide attempts are associated with people who have been suffering from a mental disorder, the majority being depressive disorders. CAMS is a mental health clinic based in Newport that provides a service to people aged 18 and under who are suffering from mental health disorders. They tackle mental health in a number of different ways, helping schools, families and the individual themselves. Upon finding out this information, I wanted to discover more, so I headed to CAMS to talk to Katie Burtz.
My role within CAMS is as one of the clinical psychologists in our team. I think there is still a lot of stigma attached to experiencing mental health difficulties, and that's something that we really need to address. There are some fantastic organisations and projects out there like the Time to Change movement, which is trying to address stigma attached to mental health. And on the island, as a CAMS team, trying to get people thinking about and talking about it. And we provide training for other professionals about children's mental health difficulties. So those are the sorts of things that we want to keep doing, but we need to do it more.
When someone comes to CAMS, what is done to help them?
So the first thing we do when we receive a referral for a young person, if it's an appropriate referral and we think we can be helpful, we meet them for an initial assessment. So that means finding out exactly what's going on for them and thinking about the best possible intervention for that young person. And that might be working with them individually, using psychological therapy. It might be that we consider using medication. It might be that we work with their whole family, or maybe with other professionals who are supporting them. So it's a whole range of things, really.
Listening to Katie sparked an interest in mental health for me. Looking at mental disorders, I realised depression was also a big part of suicide. Only when I dug deeper into depression, I discovered the story of the black dog.
I had a black dog. His name was Depression. Whenever the black dog made an appearance, I felt empty and life just seemed to slow down. He could surprise me with a visit for no reason or occasion. The black dog made me look and feel older than my years. When the rest of the world seemed to be enjoying life, I could only see it through the black dog. Activities that usually brought me pleasure suddenly ceased to.
I learned that there is always support around every corner. There is always someone else feeling the same way. I found out that we as a community don't understand the term mental health, and I think that is something we need to change. Mental health has recently shown up in the media. A recent article shows that children's mental health services were cut by 50 million. NHS spending on children's mental health services in England has fallen by more than 6% in real terms since 2010, according to official figures. The cut, equivalent to nearly 50 million, was revealed by NHS England in a parliamentary answer. However, there is still more I'm not sure about. How serious is suicide being taken? Is enough being done to prevent it?
No, it's not, because there's far too many.
No, absolutely not. But then those that do understand it, understand well. As with anything to do with mental health, there's a stigma involved, definitely, that always has been. And until more people speak out and more people understand the reasons why and what can happen and the effect it can have on people's families they leave behind, it needs to be more. It needs to be more broadcast like this, I guess.
I think there's a great danger that when people say they feel suicidal that they aren't taken seriously. Yes, I do.
Mental health is raising its awareness in the press at the moment, which is good. The charities out there are working very closely now with emergency services and other agencies to make sure that we understand the signs and symptoms, that we recognise and see where we can help, and understand how to signpost people to enable them to receive the support they need before it comes to that horrible stage.
What ways to prevent suicide do you think have personally been effective?
Personally been effective to me? I think I had to think of my family at the time, I had to think of my kids.
I think what we can do is make sure that young people are given a toolbox to stay resilient in the face of those challenges. And that can be done in lots of different ways. So normalising talking about distress, making sure we make it acceptable for young people to talk about how they feel.
I think just realising that the important thing is to make someone feel that there's no stigma around what they're feeling, not to judge them, and that there is help, appropriate help. If they feel they can talk to someone, that's good.
Not so much my friends. I know friends were worried about me and they were looking out for me, but I think I needed to distance myself. Preventive measures, having someone to talk to, definitely. Anyone you can speak to. Samaritans, I'll keep rattling on about them, but they do a good job.
While speaking to these people, a lot of them pointed out Samaritans, so I decided to go see what I could find out from them.
I'm currently the chair of Samaritans. That means that in the branch I have responsibility for looking after the building and various legal things to do. I'm chair of the committee and the committee of the trustees of the branch. In 2 weeks I'm going to become the director of the branch, which is the person who carries the responsibility for making sure the branch is working properly.
What sort of techniques do you use to help people?
Well, the principal technique, and this is something which Samaritans training drums in again and again, is to listen. Our role is to encourage people to talk and for us to listen. So there's always somebody there to answer your telephone call or your email. So we're there to support people and listen to them and to help them through their times of crisis.
Jody Neal has had a first-hand experience with suicide. He found himself stood on the edge of Culver Cliff contemplating killing himself. After his traumatic ordeal, he decided to share his story and make a film.
Well, this is Culver Cliff. This is where some people come to die. I came here once.
How did the film come about?
That was all due to Tippers Pritchard, the guy that made the film. He's been a friend of mine for years. We've done radio shows and things together, but that was all comedy. That was all fun. And when I was in trouble, I did what anyone else would do, and I'd vent it on social media. Luckily, I kept it off of Facebook, but on Twitter, where I didn't think people were paying attention, I'd put a lot of my thoughts on there, and there were some bad things on there, some real dark things. And he'd seen it, and he'd been keeping track of it, and he just approached me one day and he said, "Look, I'm your friend, you need to talk to me." I think we talked a bit. He knew about my situation more than most people did. And then when I wrote the blog Demons, he approached me a couple of months later and he said, "We need to film this." And I said, "No, I don't want to." But at the time I was feeling better, I was getting a lot better. I think I was towards the tail end of the medication. He kept on at me and he said, "Look, if it helps one person, then we've done our job." And I was like, "Okay, that's shit of you, but yeah, fair enough, let's go and do it." So we went and filmed it. He's a great filmmaker. He's an amazing guy. All he simply did was ask me a question and then let me ramble, which is I'm pretty good at. I can do that.
Can you tell us what happened on that day at Culver?
On that day in Culver, I'd not been mentally well for a couple of weeks. Well, probably a lot longer than that. And it all came to a head. It all just piled on top of me, and I didn't go up there with the express. Not that I wanted to go and jump off there. I wanted to go up there. I don't know what drove me up there. I knew a young lad had gone off there shortly beforehand, so maybe that was in my mind. Maybe that was playing around in my head. And I went up there, I think, to see it from his point of view, see why he did it. But then when I got there, I think I suddenly realised why he did it and why it was a way out. I'd been having dark thoughts for a long time, whether it was suicidal or just wallowing in a bottomless pit, really. But yeah, I went up there to do one thing, and I didn't. Looking back, I never realised what a big effect it'd have on my life and on others. I mean, it could have ended a completely different way. I mean, we might not be sat here, and I might have a family that would still be devastated and mourning my loss now. But looking back, it's surreal, because I think people always read what I wrote. I had a lot of people that always read the sort of things I write. But after that, it snowballed. Whenever I write about mental health and things like that, it gets more widely spread around and more people read it. And I think because people look at me and they think, that guy's been there. I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I'm not saying this is my diagnosis. I can say, yeah, I've been to hell and back, and this is my side of the story. People listen to me more. People come to me more. You guys have come to me. It's always going on. It's always continuous. It doesn't seem to be ending. But I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. And I hope it continues. And if it continues to help people, let's carry on.
What's life like now for you?
Good, really good. I met my girlfriend through the film. We've been together nearly 2 years now. I'm still, every now I get asked to do a talk somewhere, or I get asked to write something, or I've been asked to go to a couple of high schools actually, but I'm waiting to hear back about that. But it's not taking over my life, but it's a part of my life that is interesting, and I do like pursuing because I'm happy to help people. I'm happy to help out, and if this does, then I'll carry on.
I discovered that although suicide and mental health are still very unspoken subjects, people are beginning to understand them more. Today, people of a young age are becoming more aware of how serious these topics are and want to take action. So why do people commit suicide? There isn't a definite answer to this question. I learned that there is loads of reasons as to why people take their life, and we may never understand their reasons for doing so. Sometimes all we can do is be there and listen. Do you have any advice for people who are thinking of committing suicide or have suicidal thoughts?
Talk to somebody.
I think the most important thing is to find someone that you trust to talk about how you're feeling.
Talk to someone, not to bottle it up.
It's never as bad as you think it is. When you think that everybody's talking about you, they're not. There's always somebody out there that's willing to listen to you. There's always somebody out there to give you help and support. You will be able to find a way to get through the troubles you're in at the moment. Ask.
The risk of sounding like a broken record, talk to someone. Just go and find somebody, find a friend or family member.
I know these things sound very easy, but try and set yourself some goals, try and get out into some fresh air, but importantly, be around people.
I had a girl message me from America last night. She said she was a writer as well, and we had a chat, and she's just been feeling shit lately, but I talked to her and she left it at the end of the conversation. She's like, thank you, I needed to speak to someone. That's all people need a lot of the time. I just asked her, she was busy talking to me about how she felt and the bad things that happened, and I said, right, hold on, so what do you do for a living? Have you got a family? She had kids, and I said, just think of them, man. That's how I had to get myself out of it. And she just thanked me afterwards, said it was good to talk to me. Like I said, talking. Get it out, vent, therapy, whatever, anything to take that cap off and release it.